Welcome to the show today. I'm Theo Michael. We're going to be talking to a friend of mine, Luis.
Hey,
Excuse me. Excuse me.
you're good. It's the weather.
Um, Luis Gonzalez, who is part of I Love Movies 77, is his tag on Instagram. Is
Yep.
that also on Facebook?
I don't have a Facebook page yet.
Just Instagram?
Yeah, just Instagram and Twitter.
And my friend Luis is really big into movies. I mean, this guy knows all the details. He likes horror, but
Yeah.
he does look into everything. So we're going to talk today about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we're going to talk about the hidden history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And what we're going to discuss is, and we're just two guys talking about how from the beginning they have alluded to an earlier past where superhuman beings were involved in the course of different things in the world, and how we basically had Avengers before they were really Avengers. So, Lewis, introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about yourself,
Hey,
and then we'll start talking.
Michael, my name is Lewis. I love Movie 77 on Instagram and Twitter. Big time movie fan my whole life. I do love horror, but I like all different genres. Always watching something, whether it's new or old. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. So let's talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, everyone knows, or if they don't, we're going to remind you.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man was the first physical movie that they released in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
I know what you're going to say. Before I start seeing comments, Blade, X-Men, the first Spider-Man TV show, that horrendous Hulk Thor that showed up on the trial of the Hulk and the death of the Hulk that had Asgard in there.
Hey, don't
I
forget
know
that
all
Roger
that there.
Corman.
That did not come into play. Don't even bring up Roger Corman's Fantastic Four because they shelved that to hide it from everybody. But you know what? It's kind of I've seen it. Have you seen it?
No.
It's a
I
guilty
think I saw
pleasure.
the
It's
trailer
bad.
for I think I saw the trailer for it.
It's so bad. It's bad. It's so bad. It's good. We have to try that one time. Maybe we'll go check that out one time.
Yeah.
But we want to start with the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it, when Marvel started to take control of their own movies. A little back history is Marvel wanted to get into the Hollywood game for many years. And so they would license different characters to different movie groups that paid money and promised the world. And you've seen what we got. They had some successes. I think the TV shows really did wonderful. I loved the Hulk, grew up with the Hulk. I was from the beginning when I saw it, I loved it. I was also asking, wait a minute, where's the gamma bomb? Wait a minute, where's this? And stuff
Where's the
like
leader?
that. Why is his name Robert? What happened to Bruce?
Yeah.
All these things that I realized. But I think that what happened is they licensed off all their characters, and then it ended up with different studios owning the rights to Marvel's characters. Flash forward a little bit to when we had the whole bankruptcy issue. They're trying to get out of debt, and so they sold even more characters to get money.
So is that how Universal ended up? Even the Universal
So
theme parks
you got
ended up with
Universal owning parts of Marvel characters,
Hulk.
Hulk, and the Marvel comic characters
Uh,
that they use for the theme park. That's why Disney can't use comic book characters in the Orlando parks.
that's right.
Then you have 20th Century Fox, who had the X-Men.
And Deadpool.
And,
right?
well, that's part of the X-Men universe.
Yeah.
Carol Co. had Spider-Man.
That's right. I remember that.
But they went out of business.
Carolco was supposed to do a Spider-Man movie, weren't they?
With James Cameron.
That's right. And then
So
Tom
that
Cruise
was
was
all in the
supposed to
deal.
do
And
something.
he had a whole treatment and everything. And money was the issue again.
I remember seeing a poster way back at when.
Oh, they had a whole big thing. I think Leo was supposed to be Peter Parker. Leonardo DiCaprio.
That would have been an interesting.
Yeah, because he just come off of Titanic with Cameron, so he was still hot with that.
Makes sense. Wow.
But again, all of these things separated the characters from Marvel's use. So when
Mhm.
Marvel started their own studio with Paramount handling their distribution at first,
That's right. Paramount did the first Iron Man, the first couple
they
Iron Man.
they had to take their what people call the second stringers, only because they weren't big properties in the marketing sense for licensing and things like
Mhm.
that. But in the comic books, these were the heavy hitters. These were the Avengers. So it's not like they were starting out with Joe Schmo becoming an Avenger. You got Iron Man, you got Thor, you got Captain America, you got the Hulk. Other than Captain America, all three of them,
Mhm.
Hulk, Iron Man, and Thor, in the comic books, are founding members of the Avengers.
I gotta
Captain
admit,
America didn't come until like issue 4,
uh-huh,
and they found him in ice.
that's
So
true.
what happens is they took that idea and they built up on it. And what I loved about the MCU, or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm going to keep calling it the MCU from now
Yeah.
on. The MCU really wanted to take and focus on character development and the story of the person behind the costume, making them the hero.
I would say they did a really good. I mean, if that's what they were trying to do, they did a great first job with Robert Downey Jr.
Oh,
as
I think
Tony
just
Stark.
perfect casting, and just the timing was right, and the story, they focused on story. Here's the thing, and I think here's how they did it smart, where I think
Mhm.
DC tried to mimic by putting too much and too fast. Marvel didn't just come and throw Captain America into the first movie with Iron Man.
Mhm.
What they did is they alluded to certain things. You see things in the background, you hear talk about stuff.
And remember the
And then,
post credits.
and the post credits, they introduced the idea that he's part of a bigger universe.
Something bigger,
You think
yes.
you're the only person with superpowers? So here we have an idea of, oh, there's more. Initially, we're talking about, oh, everybody's thinking, well, we heard Captain America's coming, we heard Thor's coming, but it alludes to a bigger universe altogether. Marvel Comics has been around since the 60s, and they have a humongous, and if you go back further to the properties like Submariner and Captain America,
Hmm.
the 40s,
That's
they
true.
have built up a catalog of characters, and each of the MCU movies have alluded to an earlier incarnation of some of the heroes. Iron Man alludes to the fact that there's other superheroes. Then we go in the second movie. We have I forget what was the second one that came out, but the second post credit
Second
scene.
one after Iron Man, I'm looking at it right now, was Phase 1. You had Iron Man, Incredible Hulk,
So in
Iron
the
Man
Incredible
2,
Hulk, the
Thor, then
post
Captain
credit scene
America.
and the movie addresses that. So in the Hulk, they talk about the super soldier serum and the program to replicate Captain America's success.
Well, you remember that little post credit at the end
Mm-hmm.
where I forget the general's name, General
General Ross.
Thunderbolt, General Ross, William Hurt is in the bar, and then you see Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., make that little cameo, and then he says that thing wasn't meant to be used right now, you know,
Yeah,
alluding.
it's a failed serum. It was put on ice for a reason.
Yeah.
And so that alludes that not only did they try with the abomination, they've tried it before.
And who were they hinting at?
Who did they try? Who failed? Who succeeded? Did they live? Did they die? Did they go berserk? We don't know, but there's a story somewhere in there. And then we go even further when you see Captain America, he was created in the 40s. So now, as the first Avenger, he's considered one of the first people to be a super soldier, but he was the second.
Who was the first? The Red Skull.
The Red Skull.
Well,
So the
Johann
Red
Schmidt.
Skull was the first successful test, and even he had a side effect from the serum. So again, these things don't just happen in just one person. There's other people. Now, Where did they get the idea for the serum? Where did they get the idea of a super soldier? And if you look at the Red Skull, he was looking for things based on Norse mythology, which
Thor.
alludes to Thor. And then you have Thor being thousands of years old. So how long have we had superpowered beings? Now, jump forward into the future. This was the first three films we were talking about in the Marvel MCU, in the MCU universe. But we jump forward to the Eternals, and now we find that from the dawn of time, we've had superpowered invaders in our environment. And how did that end up touching? And even when you go into Ant-Man, Ant-Man was the second because the first one was in the 60s and worked as some sort of spy agency, right? Mm-hmm. So we have S.H.I.E.L.D., we have all of these things coming into place, which tells me we have a deeper story than we think. And not even to mention some of the bad guys. The Mandarin, he's been around for years. If you look at have you seen Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings?
Oh yeah, loved it.
How old was his father?
Very old.
There you go. So what I'm thinking, and here's my postulation, is that I think that the Marvel Universe. Oh, I forgot to mention. How could I forget Black Panther, Wakanda Forever? In the Black Panther, his father was a Black Panther.
Yeah.
And was running missions as the Black Panther in the United States with undercover agents.
I wonder who those undercover agents were.
Huh?
Did they ever allude to who the undercover agents
were? His brother.
That's right.
He confronts his own brother, but his brother was part of the War Dogs.
That's right.
So we're looking at all the glitz and everything in front of us. They're hiding in plain sight. Oh, there's much, much more. So when we talk about Marvel MCU, the main story, I'm trying to get into frame here. The main story is wonderful and entertaining, but there's a lot more in there. And I think they did a great job with the end credit scenes. And then something that you can find on Disney Plus, the Marvel one-shots. Remember those?
Agent Carter, the one about the Mandarin.
Little vignettes with some of the background characters that digs more into the history of the world. And it was great world building, but we can do that on such a bigger level with Disney Plus now. And that's what they're building, is a world. I hear a lot of stuff, and let's look back at Disney Plus over the last year, 2021.
Yeah.
WandaVision. Wow. I know I hear a lot of mixed things with this.
Yeah, you got WandaVision. Did I lose you? I lost you. Hey, everybody, if you're watching, I think we had some technical difficulties. I think we lost Michael.
Okay.
Where'd you go?
So sorry. Apologize for that. My iPad died. It's plugged in and it died. I don't know what happened.
Oh, no, I was just starting to say, hey, sorry, everybody, if anybody's watching. I think there was technical difficulties.
Yeah. Please stand by. Technical difficulties.
We are back. We are rolling.
We're back. This is taped live, so hey, I'm gonna try and edit this, but bear with us. So again,
you're talking about Disney Plus, WandaVision.
Disney Plus, WandaVision. I hear a lot of different mixed reviews, but holy cow, think about what they did. Not only did they introduce us to this concept of somebody who's able to bend reality. And I think it was very clever of them to use a TV shows and the different years, how the TV shows looked or the sitcoms looked, um, to show us changing of reality.
Mm-hmm.
This is to be, and what I think they were trying to do was, we need to get the regular movie watching audience
To watch
accustomed
Disney Plus.
accustomed to comic book style of storytelling. Because
Well,
we
and
could,
I was going to say, work with WandaVision, and then you have the other shows. Loki,
uh-huh.
they work with. You also have The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, talk about world building. We not only introduce conflict, but we also introduce concepts that, to any comic book reader worth their salt, any given day you could turn over the world, say no more mutants, do anything, and we understand how it works. But a movie person or someone that's used to regular life and regular action movies may not get that concept. What a way to introduce changing of reality, introduce and really showcase the humanity and the inhumanity of the Vision. The first mention of a variant or duplicate by introducing the X-Men's Quicksilver as the Quicksilver in her weird reality, introduced magic and witchcraft on another level other than Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, wow. And then a brand new premiere of a superhero in Captain Marvel, and excuse me, in Monica
Monica
Rambeau,
Rambeau.
she was the original female Captain Marvel in the comic books, but she is now Photon. Again, concepts that are world building, and as we see now in the next couple of movies, sets the basis for where they're going. Because without WandaVision, you can't have a real acceptance of No Way Home.
Well, the same for Loki. We mentioned in the multiverse.
Exactly. So these stories have been building up. So with the Marvel one shots, they did background characters, and now they're
Mm-hmm.
building worlds with Disney Plus. And it's just, for me, it's always a big plus when you're working on those type of stories.
Yeah, Michael, I know. I mean, we're in phase 4, which includes, Shang-Chi, Black Widow, Eternal, Spider-Man, No Way Home, and then you got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Thor, Love and Thunder, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, The Marvels, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. And I just saw a title now it's on Wikipedia. And of course, you got the TV shows and stuff. But there's one title that I see here that I didn't know.
Which
It's
one?
about a group of 4 called the Fantastic Four. I just saw that recently, and I'm thinking, I like where they're going. And
Well,
you mentioned the post credits. The cool thing about the post credits is each one post credit alludes to something bigger that's part of the whole universe. It could be something like a mention or just like a little scene. And I like what Marvel and Disney are doing.
well, and I like some of the hidden Easter eggs that they put in. A lot of the imagery that they've been doing lately.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen the What If series, the cartoon series on Disney Plus,
I haven't finished it, but I've seen most of it.
Really good.
Yeah.
Did you see the ending?
I need to.
So I'm not going to spoil it for you. But a lot of the imagery not only set up the No Way Home, but it also looks like it sets up stuff in Multiverse of Madness. And a lot of the imagery lately looks to me like they're setting us up in What If, in the Celestials, for Galactus.
That's right. But if you're
and
bringing in Galactus, then that means you're bringing
they
in
got to
Norman
do
Reedus.
better than that cloud of smoke that we had in the Fantastic Four movies.
Well, I was going to say, if you're bringing in Galactus, then that's going to allude to Norrin Radd, the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, we could see a whole lot of different stuff going. Now, what's good about the Multiverse of Madness of No Way Home, it shows us that there's different versions from the past movies. And they can interact with us because we had Toby and we had Andrew Garfield there. Spoiler alert, I know the movie made over $1 billion and has been out since Christmas. So listen, if you ain't seen it yet, you ain't going to see it. So one of the things that happens a lot of times too is the interaction opens up that we can pick and choose. Or excuse me, I talk like I work for Disney or Marvel.
I know.
Marvel can go ahead and pick and choose characters that they want to bring back. So I don't think anybody can play Silver Surfer
other than Doug Jones.
He's just perfect, not only physically, but just his characterization and the way he plays these aliens in all his movies. You know, as Abe Sapien, wonderful performance.
Pan and Pan's Labyrinth.
What was the movie in Labyrinth he played? He played Pan, right? Or that
he was El Fauno, the ram looking guy.
The Spanish name for Pan.
Yeah, and then he was in
the Fawn Man.
And then he was in Legion. He was the ice cream man.
Okay.
The zombie, yeah, and such. And then
one of my favorite roles
of Water, I think.
Yeah, he was in The Shape of Water, I think.
He was the creature from the Black Lagoon monster.
But one of my favorite roles that I didn't realize was him.
What?
In Hocus Pocus.
I didn't know he was in it.
He's the ghost, the zombie that they raised from the dead, the boyfriend of one of the witches.
Okay.
Look that up real quick. I'm pretty sure.
I'll look him up.
Just pull up Hocus Pocus and see.
I'm just going to look up Doug Jones. Doug Jones. Yeah, he's best known for portraying non-human characters.
Was that him in Hocus Pocus?
Yeah, he was in Hocus Pocus.
Yep. See?
Let me see. Cast. William Billy Butcherson, an ex-boyfriend poisoned by Winifred in 1693 and resurrected as a zombie 300 years later.
So, I mean, he's got so much versatility and range. I think he needs another shot at playing the Silver Surfer. Now, would you bring back
Did you know he was in Batman Returns?
Oh no.
It says he was Thin Clown.
Oh, okay. All right, don't be bringing up DC stuff now.
That's another day.
That's another day. Would you bring back Lawrence Fishburne as the voice of Silver Surfer?
I think I would absolutely bring him back.
He's already part of the Marvel Universe. Lawrence Fishburne plays Dr. Foster in the Ant-Man. And right. he's also alluded to being a Goliath. In the comic books, Dr. Bill Foster, is Black Goliath. And then, back in the 70s, everybody, it's not like they couldn't tell that they were black already. Everybody had to have black in front of their name if they were black characters. So Black Goliath, and then eventually they just changed his name to Goliath. So he's already a part of the MCU as Dr. Foster. And he even speaks with Paul Rudd about becoming taller and how tall he became.
That's right.
So again, here's another story that we have to go back into the past. So how deep is it? How far back do we go? Is there a story about legacy of characters like in Ant-Man? And was there another team,
Well,
a defenders of sort
well, I
that
was gonna say,
protected the world?
is you mentioned the other team, and I mean, in the first Ant-Man, they show Hank Pym, and the Wasp, and I mean, they allude to he was around a long time ago, a long time. They even showed the sequence where he punched the guy out, and
That was a
you
great
see, and you see Howard Stark. You
that
know,
was a great sequence with the age de-aging technology too.
yes. But the thing is, if he was a part of that group, and his wife as well, Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, then who else was a part of that group with them?
Exactly. Who else were they working with? Could we have seen
It was
an
Shield,
earlier?
but
Could we have seen, or could there have been the Fantastic Four, like not Professor X, but like Reed Richards as part of the think tank, or even Nathaniel Richards, which is his father? And in the comic books, Nathaniel Richards ends up becoming Kang in one version, but Nathaniel Richards also goes back and forth in time. So could we have the way that they're going to bring in the Fantastic Four that way?
it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Now the Fantastic Four anniversary is coming up. I think 65 years, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta look that up. But again, are they going to introduce them at the end of Phase 4, which would be perfect?
They came out in 1961.
Yeah. So
Jack
2000.
Kirby, Stan Lee.
So what year does that make this?
Yeah. Is it 50?
I'm going to pull a calculator. I'm not going to sit here and do math on the air.
I know.
So, I mean, they've got a lot of opportunity, a lot of things, but you could see how they've been hiding this history in plain sight. And I think it has a lot of potential.
Let me ask you something, because
Uh-huh.
we're on the subject of Fantastic Four. Who do you think, will they bring in a whole new cast to play Fantastic Four? Do you think? Or will they
They'd have to.
bring...
They'd have to. And I'll tell you why.
Because they could bring Chris Evans back as the Torch.
It's hard, though. You could do something as a gratuitous cameo, but the fact remains, let's talk money and longevity. How much am I going to have to pay for somebody now like Chris Evans is established?
That's true. He's going to probably want a lot of money.
And he's getting older. So if I want to have a series of movies, how long do I have Chris Evans before he can't do it anymore? So it would only make sense for them to cast somebody young, has some pull, but is going to be able to stay the long one, or hire someone like Paul Rudd that doesn't age ever.
Anytime I see Paul Rudd, it's crazy, because anytime, I mean, obviously he's known for the Marvel stuff that he's doing, but anytime I see Paul Rudd, I mean, a lot of people think Clueless, and I think that Halloween movie that he did, Halloween 6.
Really? I didn't know he was in a Halloween movie.
Oh, yeah.
I think of I Love You, Man.
Well, I mean, then I would have to go back to Clueless.
Clueless was good, but I Love You, Man.
I Love You, Man is funny. He was hilarious in I Love You, Man, or This Is 40, or even 40-Year-Old Virgin.
40-Year-Old Virgin. I remember him. That he has this personality that just makes him the everyman.
I gotta admit it, since we're talking about Paul Rudd.
Uh-huh.
I love Ghostbusters Afterlife. I thought he was phenomenal in it. I mean, he, how do I put it? I mean, it was cool that they had the original Ghostbusters back and they could have held their own if they were in more of the movie. But he kind of was, I mean, even though they had the younger cast as well, it's like he was the bridge. He was the one that held it all together.
Yeah.
And it was his comedic, his lines, you know. Remember there was a scene where he's showing some movies in a class, and he's showing them Child's Play and Cujo and such. I took my son Matthew to see it, and Matthew during the movie, of course, asked me, he's like, "Daddy, that looks like a doll. That looks like a dog. What is it?" I said, "Not today, not right now."
Oh, Cujo.
Maybe some years down the road. And he's like, "Daddy, I want to see a monster movie." And I said, Ghostbusters is going to be the extent of the monsters that you see.
Yeah.
I
love that. That movie was really good. It was very touching, I think.
Yes.
On a lot of nice themes. And I love how they used the old and new cast together. All right, so we're going on 31 minutes. I want to keep these pretty short. I'll have to edit out the part where we lost the signal.
Yeah.
But I may not. I may just run it live like this and just tape it live and go through. I'll run through it and see. Any final things you want to say, Louis?
I'm really, really curious to see what Marvel does next. What if there's any major announcements? And I mean, you did touch on the TV shows, and don't forget we got some coming up. We got Moon Knight that's coming up soon, and She-Hulk eventually. I mean, that are coming out this year.
Yep. So they've you know what I thought about, just a little off subject, because you mentioned She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
And I hesitate to say this because I was thinking of it as a pitch idea.
Mm-hmm.
What's one of the longest running procedural shows on any TV channel? It used to be
running?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the longest running procedural. It's been on every channel because they play it in syndication now.
If we're
Law and Order.
I was just about to think of Law and Order. I was about to say Law and Order or Simpsons.
And the NCIS, right? All that stuff. So you have all these Law and Order programs.
Remember, Law and Order, the original one, is making a comeback this next month.
And you got all the different ones that came out from it.
The most successful one is SVU, that is still running.
What I would probably love to see done, and this was something I was thinking as a pitch, take all your not like your Daredevil type characters that just do low level crime, the bank robbers, the mafia, and all that stuff, and you do a procedural not from their point of view, but you do a procedural from the police officers that are showing up in all of those books. So you're talking about, you can use, it's basically like a Marvel version of Gotham, but don't focus on the superheroes or the supervillains. Focus on the procedural, where they're busting down the guy that robs banks and breaks into the stores, but maybe they're using equipment from the Hobgoblin or Green Goblin or something like that. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of potential to build up a story, and while you're doing the story and basing it on the real life people, I mean the normal people in the Marvel universe, you can showcase some real backstory type villains that can build up and be, fodder in there. I would love to see GSP show up on an episode as a mercenary that comes in contact, because I thought he did a really good job as Batroc in Captain America, but it was too short.
Didn't they bring him back for Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
You know what? I don't remember.
Yeah, he was
I do know they brought his voice back for What If.
That's it. I'm gonna look up the MCU part. Let me see. Let me see.
So they
He was
brought his
in-
voice back to be Batrock, and it was a version of Captain Carter when she's in the future, like Captain America was. She pulls that same mission that he did and faces Batrock, and Batrock is fighting her, and then before the Watcher takes her.
Let me find it. I'm almost. Samuel Jackson. Of course, now I got to go to the filmography. Ugh. He was in 3 episodes of The Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay.
As George's Batroc, and of course, What If?
Yeah, yes. Now I remember. He was on the helicopter scene.
Yep.
That was
He
an
was
awesome
in
scene.
What If episode? What if the Watcher broke his oath?
So, all right. So, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Like I said, I'm really curious to see what Marvel does, because with Marvel lately, there always seems to be some rumor or some big announcement, especially with the partnership with Disney. Anything's possible. I'm really curious to see if, obviously we're going to see it, and I was about to say if we're going to see anything dimension-wise, and we're going to get to see that in the new Doctor Strange movie when it comes out. But yeah.
In the new Doctor Strange movie, do you think we'll see the end of the multiverse, or is it going? Let me rephrase the question.
Yeah.
I think we have not seen what the overall big villain is.
No, I don't think so.
When they did the Avengers and all that, it's been alluded that it was Thanos. So all of the background stories in the beginning was the Avengers are coming, the Avengers are coming.
And
When the Avengers came together, they faced Loki, but it was because Loki was working for Thanos. So Thanos was the overall big bad that was behind everything.
Well, you had Loki, then you had Ultron in the second one.
Is Kang the big bad? Or
well, they've alluded to Kang and Loki. Well, they've alluded to Kang and Loki.
But is he the big bad, or is he working for somebody else? Is he this series or this run the form of Loki that then shows there's somebody bigger?
Well, I think he's supposed to be the main villain of Ant-Man, from what I understand.
We won't know till that Ant-Man comes out. But we'll see. Each movie will then allude and give us some secret behind it.
And if you're a Marvel fan watching, don't leave when the credits roll. Why?
Why would you?
Always a post-credit.
And the other thing is, I'm going to leave on this note. Not only can you enjoy the movies and look on Disney Plus, visit your local comic shops. Check out some of the stories that they get this information from, because they're very entertaining. And I think they've done a better job lately of working out so that people can jump into some stories along with the movies. These movies could not have happened without the hard work, dedication, and imagination from all the writers and artists that put these together. So help support them and also get the stories for the next generation going. That being said, Louis, thank you for jumping on. You're always welcome to jump in on any stream we're doing.
And we'll do this again.
Keep you in and follow him on I Love Movies 77 on Instagram and Twitter. He's got a lot of insight into movies, and if you're into horror, he's your man. I'm a chicken. I don't like horror movies.
Podcast coming in the future.
But I know a lot of stuff that goes on. So thank you again, everybody. Good night and God bless.